Have you ever wondered why it's so hard for millennials to buy homes? The truth is they've been plagued with a mountain of debt and have had other factors that have influenced their purchasing decisions. In this video, we're going to talk about why that is. In this episode, we're going to discuss why millennials aren't purchasing homes at the rate of their parents and their grandparents. We'll explore why it's more difficult to buy a home in today's market and if buying a home even makes sense. And then we'll discuss some tips on getting the ball rolling for purchasing a home. All right, let's get to it. So what is a millennial anyways? A millennial was born between 1981 and 1996. They're defined by being married later in life, if married at all. They're also defined by having less children. Millennials were the first generation to grow up with internet in their homes. They're known as digital natives, which means that they are accustomed to all things social media and all things internet. Millennials have had to deal with adversity, and some of that adversity being that when they graduated from college, we were actually in the Great Recession of 2008. After the Great Recession, they had to deal with COVID and job issues during COVID. And then, of course, all the shutdowns that had to do with COVID. So in many cases, millennials have this idea in their head that the dream of home ownership is something that doesn't necessarily apply to them. There's this overall sentiment that millennials would prefer to rent over purchase a home. And that's not necessarily the case. To begin with, the housing market is just difficult in general due to housing shortages, COVID supply chain issues. There's been a massive amount of people that want to buy homes but just can't attain them. So there's more buyers than there are sellers, which makes it a seller's market. We're also dealing with a situation where there's very low interest rates, which increases demand. And then overall, the cost of houses are going up. A home purchase is much more expensive now than it was 2 years ago. Some of the things that I hear from my millennials is that they would prefer to live in urban areas. And there's a reason for that. They want to be able to walk to entertainment. They want to be able to walk to restaurants. They want to be able to get around town and not have to drive very far. So many times they're going to position themselves kind of in the epicenter of a city. Once a millennial has positioned themselves kind of in the middle of a city, sometimes they do find that they want to purchase a home. And as I mentioned previously, they're getting married later, they're having less children, so they position themselves in such a way that their rent costs are very, very high. If you're living in the middle of San Francisco or San Diego or even the Dallas area, it's going to be very, very expensive on rent. I've also found that their overall debt level is extremely high. So they're coming out of college with an extreme amount of debt. They're putting themselves in the middle of cities where their rents are extremely high, and they're having difficulty in saving for that first home. Why is it more difficult for a millennial to buy a home right now? The number one reason is simply cost. It's just too expensive. The market is too lopsided right now, and millennials are having a hard time even fathoming going to make a purchase that's going to cost them $400,000 or $500,000. Another issue is going to be the fear factor of taking on more debt. In many cases, millennials are paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month in rent. They have an unimaginable amount of student loan debt in many cases, and now they're trying to consider saving money for down payment, for a closing cost, and potentially paying a whole lot more than what they're paying in rent to buy a home. Another issue is that mortgage lending standards have become tighter. Since 2020, when COVID hit, there was this general sentiment that mortgage lenders were going to be dealing with another situation like what happened in the Great Recession of 2008. They assumed that there was going to be a lot of foreclosures, a lot of problems, a lot of issues, and they tightened up lending standards. So it's become much more difficult for somebody to get a mortgage than it was in 2018 or 2017. So lots of issues. We've got low inventory, high demand. We've got supply chain bottlenecks. These are all causing massive amounts of issues for millennials to make that decision, jump into the dream of homeownership. So know some things. Know that the market will eventually shift. The market always goes up and down. Sometimes it's a seller's market. Sometimes it's a buyer's market. Right now it's a seller's market. Probably in truth, because that's where we're at in the scheme of things, but also because of COVID. It's combined. So it's kind of a double whammy in terms of how we got to where we're at. Currently, the economy is kind of doing some crazy things in real time, and a lot of people say that we're going to go into a recession, Possibly. That means home prices are going to possibly drop down low. Moral of the story is that things change. And things are going up and down all the time in terms of it being a seller's market, being a buyer's market. Interest rates go up. Things are always changing. It's not going to always be a crazy market. So know when to buy, quite honestly. Timing is everything. My clients ask me all the time, is it a good time to buy right now? And I would say in general, it's a tough market, right? Houses appear to be selling for more than what they should be selling. Interest rates are rising. The economy is kind of flipping and flopping all over the place. Is it a good time to buy right now? It's really up to the individual person. If you're a millennial and you're paying $2,500, $3,500, $4,000 a month in rent, you're literally throwing that money away. You are literally making it rain money on some other person and providing a situation where they're enjoying the appreciated value of the property that you live in. You're paying down the principal to their mortgage. If it's the case where you're spending that kind of money every single month, I would say it's always a good time to buy. There's nothing worse than spending $3,000, $3,500 a month every single month and seeing absolutely no return on that. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be working hard to bring you a video each weekday over credit, lending, real estate, and other relevant personal finance topics. So what should you do if you're in a place to make a purchase now? The first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that your credit is intact. That's going to always be the first step. By credit intact, I mean that you need to check your actual mortgage scores. And if you've been following me for a minute, you know that there's a couple of different places to find your actual mortgage scores. The one place you can get them is by going directly through the lender and having them pull credit. If you're just in the beginning process, or if you think you might have credit challenges, that's never a good idea. And the main reason is because when they pull your credit, the inquiry actually causes your scores to decrease. And if you're thinking that you can just go with Credit Karma and that give you an actual representation of your true mortgage score, that's not the case at all either. Credit Karma is going to use what's called a Vantage score. It has nothing to do with a mortgage score. The mortgage score is actually a subset of FICO. It's called FICO 2, 4, and 5, and the only place to really get that is to go directly through FICO to get those scores. The website to go through FICO to get your mortgage scores is called www.myfico.com. It's going to pull a tri-merge report, and within that tri-merge report, there's going to be your industry-specific scores. You can view what your actual mortgage score is there. It's going to be the middle of your 3 mortgage-specific scores. Now, if you're under a 620, you're probably going to need some credit work. If you don't have qualifying scores and you're under that 620 threshold, it does not make sense to go to a lender and have them pull credit. A couple of different reasons. First of all, it's going to be embarrassing because you're most likely going to get denied for the mortgage. The next reason is there's no reason to take your scores down 3 or 4 points from an inquiry that's unnecessary when you've already been able to verify that your scores aren't qualifying. Now, if you have challenged credit, there's a few pieces of good news for you. The first thing is that the Fair Credit Reporting Act says that anything that's inaccurate, erroneous, or unverifiable must either be corrected or deleted from your credit profile. So what this means for you is that you can go through your entire credit profile, and anything that looks like it may be off to you, you can actually challenge. You can dispute that information. When it comes to disputing information, you want to look at all 3 bureaus. You want to look at your accounts. You want to look at the accounts when they were open, when they were closed, the payment history, the balances. You want to look at all aspects of each of your accounts across all 3 bureaus. And if you find inaccuracies, it is reasonable for you to dispute that information. In fact, the law says if it's inaccurate, it has to be corrected or deleted, as I mentioned before, so why would you not dispute that information? In terms of finding inaccuracies, here at Creative Credit Solutions, we do this in a couple of different ways. First of all, we've got an amazing processing team that's going to find these inaccuracies on your credit report and challenge those items with the credit bureaus. If it's a collection agency involved, we're going to deal with them. And sometimes the original creditor, depending upon the situation. We also have specialty software that helps us find these inaccuracies. Okay, now once you get your credit scores up to that qualifying level, the next thing that you're going to want to do after that is you're going to want to go to a lender. You're going to want to have the lender pull credit, not in reverse, right? So you're going to want them to pull credit after you have qualifying scores. Get your pre-qualification, which is going to be a piece of paper that says you're eligible to buy. It's been certified that you're eligible to buy at a certain level. And then you're going to go out and find yourself a realtor. I'm a big believer in finding the right realtor for you. Realtors actually are going to work for you as a buyer. The seller's going to pay them their commission, so it costs you nothing. But they do work for you. So I recommend you go through 3 different realtors and you interview all 3 of them to determine what the best fit might be for you. Realtors are going to help you in many different areas when it comes to purchasing a home. First of all, they're going to be master negotiators. They're going to negotiate with the seller depending upon what your requirements are and what your needs are. The second thing is when you go to purchase a home, you're going to need an inspection on that home, and those inspection reports can be quite long and detailed and can quite honestly be hard to understand. The realtor is going to go through that inspection with you and tag anything that may be a big problem. If you have credit challenges or need help with your credit, then I have a gift for you. My team will complete a complimentary credit analysis specifically tailored to you. The only cost involved is that you have to purchase a smart credit report. This report gives us the data that we need to build out a comprehensive plan for you.